Concrete is the second most consumed substance on planet Earth. Only water beats it. We pour so much of it every year that if you dumped it all in one place, you could build a wall the size of a small mountain range. And here's the ugly part nobody talks about at dinner parties. Making cement, which is the glue inside concrete, produces around 8% of all human greenhouse gas emissions. That's more than every airplane on the planet combined. It's close to what every car and truck on Earth spits out. One ingredient, 8% of the entire climate problem. So when I found out a team of researchers in China had figured out a way to make concrete stronger, denser, and less carbon heavy without changing a single ingredient in the recipe, I had to know how. Curiosity saved the cat this time. Problem that sat unsolved for a century. Concrete has been humanity's favorite building material for a really simple reason. It's cheap, it's strong, it doesn't rot or rust, and you can pour it into basically any shape you want. Engineers trust it because we've had 100+ years of data on exactly how it behaves. That's not something you throw away lightly. That is a predictable and safe material. However, we will discuss the safe part in more detail. The emissions problem is baked directly into the chemistry. To make cement, you have to heat limestone past 1,400 degrees Celsius, and at that temperature, the rock itself releases carbon dioxide as a direct byproduct. This isn't a switch to solar power fix. Even with perfectly clean electricity, you'd still be cracking carbon out of the stone. It's built into the recipe at a molecular level, which is honestly why this problem outlasted so many smart people trying to solve it. For decades, the fixes were all around the edges. Swap in some fly ash, use industrial slag, try a different chemical binder entirely. All of it helped a little. None of it changed the fundamental math, and I think that's what makes what happened next actually interesting, because the researchers didn't touch the ingredients at all. They looked at the process instead. The pressure trick. Here's the part that got me. Fresh concrete right out of the mixer is basically a thick, wet slurry. It's full of trapped air and loose particles floating in water. Normally you just pour it into a mold and let gravity and time do the work. That's been the process for generations, unchanged. A research team whose work was published in the journal Engineering in 2025 decided to physically squeeze the mix while it was still wet using several megapascals of mechanical pressure, roughly what you'd get out of an industrial hydraulic press. And when you compress fresh concrete like that, the particles get forced together so tightly that excess water and trapped air get pushed straight out. What's left behind is dramatically denser. Independent testing on this compression cast concrete, or CCC, showed porosity dropping by around 45% compared to standard concrete, and porosity is basically where every concrete failure starts. Cracks form at the voids, water seeps in through the voids, salt and chemicals travel through those same gaps to reach the steel rebar inside and corrode it from within. Less porosity means fewer entry points for basically everything that destroys concrete over time. There's also this microscopic zone where the cement paste meets each piece of stone aggregate, and normally that boundary is the weakest link in the whole structure. Under compression casting, that zone tightens up dramatically too. Lab results showed compressive strength increasing by well over 50% in some batches, with certain trials pushing past 80%. And separate lifecycle analysis found this compression casting approach can cut the carbon footprint of concrete components by somewhere between 21 and 45% depending on how it's applied. What impresses me here isn't just the sheer numbers, it's that they extracted all of this out of the exact same raw materials. No expensive new additives, no exotic, hard-to-find chemicals, just pure physics applied at the absolute perfect moment in the manufacturing process. That's the kind of elegant fix that's actually cheap to scale because you're not asking the entire global supply chain to source a whole new material. You're simply asking it to add one single, highly efficient pressure step. The steel challenger. Nobody expected. While this concrete story was unfolding, a completely different Chinese company was quietly proving that some buildings barely need concrete at all. Broad Group has been building with a material called B-Core since the early 2000s, and it's basically two thin stainless steel plates with a lattice of steel tubes fused between them, brazed together so tightly it behaves almost like a single solid piece. Think of the internal structure like a waffle iron, but engineered to aerospace level tolerances. Broad Group spent over a decade and reportedly around around $1.25 billion developing this, and the reason is personal for them. The company was founded right after the devastating 2008 Sichuan earthquake, which flattened reinforced concrete towers like they were made of sand. Stainless steel has a property concrete doesn't. It can flex under stress instead of snapping, which matters enormously when the ground starts shaking, and the construction speed on this stuff is honestly a little absurd. Broad has assembled multi-story buildings using B-core panels in a matter of days, with entire floors stacking together in a matter of hours because the modules arrive from the factory with wiring, plumbing, and finishes already installed. It's flat pack furniture logic applied to skyscrapers. Here's why I think these two technologies matter more together than apart. CCC makes the concrete we do pour dramatically better and lower carbon. B-core reduces how much concrete a building needs to begin with. One shrinks the footprint of the material, the other shrinks how much material you use at all. Put those trends next to each other and you're looking at a genuinely different trajectory for how the built world gets constructed over the next couple of decades. How big could this actually get now? I want to be honest about the limits here because I think overselling this stuff is exactly how good science gets a bad reputation. Building codes move slowly, and they should, because getting a structural material wrong isn't a minor mistake, it's a collapsed building. Every country that wants to adopt compression casting at scale needs its own testing, its own regulatory approval, and its own trained workforce running the equipment. China can publish the data, but nobody else gets to skip the homework. There's also a real infrastructure gap. Compression casting needs equipment most concrete plants simply don't have right now. For big construction firms in wealthy countries, that's a manageable investment. For smaller contractors in developing economies, that upfront cost could genuinely be a wall, and that raises a fair question about whether the places that need cheap, low-carbon construction the most actually get access to it first or last. But even with those caveats, the math on scale is hard to ignore. If a meaningful chunk of global structural concrete shifted toward this kind of compression process, we're talking about carbon savings on the order of what an entire industrialized country produces in a year. That is not a small number, games. That is climate policy scale impact coming out of a materials science lab. What actually gets me excited isn't the specific percentage points, it's the transparency behind it. The researchers published their raw data openly, which is rare in an industry that usually keeps proprietary methods locked down tight. That's the kind of move that lets engineers everywhere check the work instead of just taking China's word for it. And that's honestly what separates a real breakthrough from a headline that fades in 6 months. Concrete built the modern world quietly for over 100 years, and it never really got questioned. Now it finally is. I don't think this replaces concrete overnight, and I don't think anyone who actually read the research is claiming that. But for the first time in a long time, the fundamental process of making it is genuinely changing, not in a press release, but in real structures with real data attached to them. If a fix this significant was sitting in front of engineers this whole time, hiding in something as basic as how hard you squeeze wet concrete, I'd love to know what other obvious fixes are just waiting for someone to actually try them. Ultimately, the true value of this breakthrough isn't just a stronger beam or a slightly lower emissions metric. It is a proof of concept for an entirely new mindset in material engineering. We have spent decades chasing the next exotic composite or high-tech synthetic, convincing ourselves that solving our biggest industrial crises requires reinventing the wheel from scratch. This research proves otherwise. It shows that our most profound solutions might not require looking forward to unproven tech, but rather looking back at the mundane materials we take for granted and asking what else we missed.